Hi there, this is Wafa Bedat. You're listening to the Women Power Podcast, a subsidiary platform to the Women Power Summit, the largest event in MENA, with the aim of empowering women and helping them achieve their absolute highest potential. Each week on the Women Power Podcast, you will hear honest, vulnerable, authentic, real conversations from inspiring women. These women will share their experiences and stories into what it takes to build a successful business and career. The podcast will share insight and inspiration and hopefully inspire action and lead change. Tracy Harmoush is a Lebanese-American athlete and entrepreneur and influencer who started her own business and quit her 10-year-long career in investment banking. Tracy runs weight training and inversion workshops across the region and is an influencer in the sports and healthy lifestyle industry. Welcome, Tracy. How has COVID been treating you? Did you have one specific day where you were completely broken down, you couldn't function, and how did you come back from that?
I mean, I can't really point my finger at one specific day that felt like I lost it or I broke down. I think maybe at the very start, it almost felt like a break and a good idea. Not to take pleasure out of other people's misery, of course, but there was a part of me that enjoyed that time off because everything was truly moving so quickly. And I mean, I really didn't take breaks. There was just one thing after the other, and this busy, hustling lifestyle was really what I was doing the whole time until COVID hit, and then we were forced to take a step back. So I kind of reassessed and enjoyed the break until it almost felt like, okay, this doesn't feel like a break anymore. This feels like it's going to be for a long time, and now I'm scared, right? So, I mean, as you know, my business is in adventure, and it's in travel, it's in sports, workshops, touching people, physical, like that's how you correct people, you travel together. I mean, it was very physical, and I need face-to-face interaction, and I lost that very quickly. So the only thing I knew how to do at the time was, and not just that, I mean, I need the gym. I know how to train in a gym. I don't train at home. Like, it's all these things that came together. But just like everybody else, I mean, I really always try to assess and think, okay, you know what? You're not the only one going through this, Tracy. Don't be a brat. Don't complain. I mean, a lot of people are in a much more difficult position than you are right now. So, and with that, I slowly started teaching, and not even teaching, I was just training myself. I was doing my own program at home. And then slowly that became people training with me, wanting to do it live with me. I was doing it all obviously just for fun or just for me to stay fit and train. And then I figured out a way to adapt. And I moved most of my stuff online. I did more talks online. I did the workshops online. And then more and more people started gathering. And I created a business out of it, which was like a lot of people, what they're doing. They're managing to shift and readjust. So not one specific day or period, I would say. It was just that beginning, that transition of I don't know what I'm going to do. I was meant to launch so many things this year and I can't launch any. But then when I started adapting slowly, I kind of took myself out of it and I said, okay, you know what, just readjust.
What is your daily routine like? Do you like working out at home? What kind of workouts do you incorporate on a daily basis?
I would definitely say the type of training I was doing was very skill based. So I needed monkey bars and parallettes and the air track to work on my flips. I couldn't do any of those things. I'm not an aerobics kind of person or just a home workout person, I would say. I personally don't enjoy that. What I do enjoy, though, is bringing a community together and pushing each other to do what we need to do to stay fit, to stay strong, encourage each other, motivate each other. And in my case, it came in the form of bringing a community, probably don't know how to train alone or don't want to train alone. I lost complete motivation, stressed during lockdown. And then I just said, you know what, let's just have this 1 hour of not just working out. I mean, now it's shifted entirely to cooking together, talks, expert talks, a whole wellness community where I have experts on board giving chats, from physiotherapists to nutritionists to hormone experts, as well as the workouts. And then I even do like tea with Tracy kind of chats. We just discuss, random things. We joke a lot, we laugh a lot. So it's not that I love home workouts, I love the fact that this community was built for the better good. And it just came in the form of home workouts for me.
What was your first job? I'd like to know more about that.
I was in advertising when I first moved to Dubai. I did an internship at Leo Burnett agency, an advertising agency, my sister was working there, so she got me in, and I interned for 2 months. But then straight after, that was 20 turning 21, straight after that I got my first job in finance. So yeah, I mean, I technically, prior to this advertising experience, I don't have any work experience, and investment banking is factually my first ever experience truly working and making money.
What did you learn from that experience?
Corporate structure, interacting with other people, discipline, parking your ego aside, because as an intern you do a lot of stuff you don't want to do. You think you can do better, and I'm sure for a lot of interns they're even hungrier than people that have been in industries for 10 years. They're just getting started, so they know they have much more to offer. I think as an intern, I mean, graduating as a senior, the ego that comes with that, but then entering as an intern, you just have like a hit to your ego straight away. I learned ego, like park your ego aside, work past it, be humble, do your thing, because eventually you can grow from there.
Why did you want to become an investment banker initially?
I think I joined investment banking to begin with because of ego, because of the prestige that comes with it, because of how I perceived being in an industry like that. Proud of myself for even being picked to be in one of the top banks of the world. Citigroup was my first job, and being a trader, the only girl on the desk, that was also a big win for me. Super young as well, so that was, I would say, the reason why I took it. I stayed in it because it kept stroking that ego, and of course it comes with a lot of great things. Like any job, there's a lot of technical, you learn a lot. I grew a lot. I met huge, very strong, very powerful people internationally and locally, and how to negotiate. And I mean, every industry has their own form of teaching you lessons, so this was one I was very, very proud of. But I think at some point with time, and I stuck with it because I had a lot more to prove. I wanted the next raise, I wanted the next promotion. But I feel with the shift between investment banking to being an athlete is more of a shift between doing something that would stroke your ego or make other people proud of you versus, this is what I just want to do right now. This is what I'm enjoying. Whether it may or may not make money, this is as soon as I was transitioning. So I had no idea whether I was going to make money or not afterwards. It was more about the shift between this shark-like corporate job where you're out to get the next best promotion, the next raise, beat your colleagues to it kind of a attitude. And it was a very aggressive industry, to another sort of aggression, I would say, which is hustling for yourself and entrepreneurship. That's a different kind of hustle altogether. It may not come in the form of that kind of competitive field that I was in, but it comes in a very different form of competing with yourself and how good you can be and what you could possibly make, and how can you make money. You don't have a fixed salary at the end of the day, right?
What is the lifestyle like of an investment banker? Did you enjoy it?
So my lifestyle, I mean, let's be a little stereotypical here. The lifestyle of an investment banker is, I mean, I'm sure you can think of the top 5 things you would think an investment banker's interest would be or lifestyle would be and stuff. Everyone always perceived me, and I saw myself, as everything but that lifestyle. So that I don't have an entourage of investment banking friends that did the typical investment banking, had the typical investment banking attitude towards their travel, towards their spending, whatever. That wasn't me. I was more on the down low, adventure, travel. I had a very different lifestyle to a typical investment banker, let's say. And my friends, my entourage where I would travel would be people who are in the arts and in opening up small boutique hotels, musicians, promoters of clubs and bars, and so I basically would encounter people who did something for pure love and joy and passion and not for prestige or elite. When I would see myself in that circle, I would always feel like I'm just not being myself really in my role. I don't feel like I'm myself. I don't feel passion. The way I see them talking about their love for what they do and their hustle, and I used to envy it almost. And trip after trip, those were my triggers. Every time I'd sit I mean, when I'm in my bubble here in Dubai with all my investment banking colleagues and friends and going about my day and making good money, it was almost like I was masking the feeling and masking the true feeling of what I actually felt towards my industry. It was easy to brush it off or not give it as much importance or not highlight it because it's good money, good prestige, good clients, a bigger promotion now. But then as soon as I'd go back into that entourage where I felt comfortable and myself, and it was almost like I felt fire. I remember having this conversation with somebody, his name is Peter, a friend of mine. He was in a similar situation. He's French. And he was just about starting his business in F&B. And he used to be an engineer, a huge family business. And I remember going the following year to visit my friends in Spain, and then he was telling me about, he had such fire and such passion talking about what he's doing and how proud he was about where he's gotten to. And then I had this sense of like sadness / envy in my eyes, and I'm like, I can't believe how you did that. I can't believe, I mean, you're so lucky. He's like, well, why are you saying I'm lucky? I mean, why don't you just do it? I'm like, no, it's not that simple. And I know this narrative that I used to have because people have this narrative with me when I'm like, then go for it. And then there's always an excuse and always a reason why you don't want to go for it. But that's pretty much your fears and your self-doubt talking, right? So those were my pockets of inspiration and motivation. And then I just thought after 10 years, and I had hit 30, 31 at the time, I'm like, there's no way I can keep doing this for another 4, 5, 6, 7 years. It was hard for me. The thought of doing it for that long gave me anxiety, much more anxiety than it was me actually leaving and trying my own thing.
We at O'Brien Hill have over a decade's worth of experience working with some of the world's most successful brands across F&B, retail, culture and hospitality. We are equally at home helping a brand define its point of view, positioning a new development, designing product, packaging or creating content that speaks to an audience. Whatever the challenge, we deliver sharp, intelligent, content-driven work that helps brands amplify their message to customers around the world. Contact us on www.obinehill.com or DMing us on Instagram for your public relations, social media, and branding needs. Did you struggle with this switch from the corporate world to becoming an entrepreneur?
Absolutely. I struggled for a while. There's a lot of beauty that comes with working in corporate. I don't ever condone being an entrepreneur over corporate or vice versa. I just think you do what's right for you. Everybody has a different personality. A lot of people hate micromanaging or managing. A lot of people like discipline and a structure, and some people hate structure. So it really depends on your character. So you go for what works for you. The struggle I had between corporate and entrepreneurship is I was so used to being boxed in a specific role. And anything outside of that role is not my job. They told me that this is what your role is, this is what you're good at. And because that structure works for corporate, it's the mechanics of telling everybody this is where your role starts, this is where your role ends. Because they're not trying to be condescending or place a glass ceiling over your capabilities, but they just need their structure to work. And everybody needs to start and end to their roles so that other roles can all come together and make this corporate or conglomerate function properly. But with that, I just learned that I don't know how to do anything else. This is what I know how to do. I'm a trader or I'm an asset manager or whatever it is. But if you're going to ask me to look at legal documents or to do the accounting, I'm just like, no, I don't know how to do that. That's not my job. And I'm actually depending on somebody else to do that. When I had to do this transition, I realized that if I don't do these things, if I don't do the accounting, if I don't find the lawyers, speak to get advice from friends and family on these nitty-gritty things, logistics, admin things that I didn't have to handle, if I don't do them, the job's not going to get done. Where I kept saying, why I'm doing everything alone, it's so hard, I don't know how to do all these things. But you're either going to complain that you don't know how to do all these things, or you're just going to do them and you're going to figure it out. And you may get them wrong the first time, you'll get them right the second time. It doesn't come as an epiphany where you realize, oh, okay, now I know how to do everything. I think you just backtrack. You think, okay, 6 months ago, where was I? Look where my business is now. That's crazy. How the hell did I manage this? It's literally by looking at your next step, your to-do list for this week. And then your to-do list just gets bigger and bigger, right?
Did you have any idea where to start when you decided to leave your corporate job?
I had no idea what I was going to do, to be honest, because the way I left was out of left field. It wasn't planned like you should do, or it was financially planning it, or even having a business plan. I basically started becoming less and less interested in my role, more and more interested in things I like. That's not to say that I thought I was going to make money out of it. I didn't even know how I'd make money out of it, whether it's in the sports I was getting into or the adventure trips. I kind of wanted to open an adventure concept, but I didn't know how, I didn't know what to do. And there's always this thing at the back of my mind telling me, you're not going to know how to do it, Tracy. This is what you know investment banking. Don't be stupid, don't leave. Now, my last role in investment banking, I was head to head with my boss, and I was not having he wanted a certain way of doing business, which I didn't want to do. And we sort of clashed on that front. I wasn't happy in my role in that specific company. I didn't like where the industry and the finance industry was headed. I felt like it was very cutthroat. It wasn't clean, and I just didn't want to be a part of it anymore. I didn't like the entourage. So my last fight with my boss was, this is not going to happen. Yes, it is. No, it's not. You know what? If you don't like it, I'm out. Okay. And then when he's like, okay, I'm like, shit, I actually have to leave now, right? It was more of, heat of an argument. And anyway, I knew in the back of my mind, I just wanted an excuse to get out. And I didn't have the guts to just resign and get out of this salary. You know what I mean? So I just had this huge fight with him. And then he's like, yeah, sure, okay, fine. If this is what you want, then this is what you want. I'm like, fine. And then I walked out. And then in parallel, I had a few headhunters contacting me, wanting me for a different role. And I was actually planning at this point to leave. Prior to my fight with my boss, I was actually planning on leaving for a different role. But when I found myself in that position, I switched off my LinkedIn. I basically blocked or didn't pick up on any of the headhunters because I knew it was super tempting for me to take another role with a huge salary if it comes forward, which it did. And I thought that, you know what, Tracy, you keep saying this, that after this specific job, I'm going to go and do what I love. And then I move companies, and I'm in that company for 3 years or whatever. And then I move to the next and the same thing. So I thought, I'm like, okay, I'm 30, 31 now. If I take this next job and somebody came to me with a huge salary for a different position, a better position, and I was like, no, don't do this to me. So I told myself, you know what, don't take it. Don't tell anybody about this. I didn't tell a soul. I hadn't told my parents I left. I didn't tell my parents for like 6 months, by the way. I didn't tell my siblings at the time because I knew that they were all going to try to tell me to do otherwise. And I thought to myself, you know what, Tracy, just make this decision by yourself. And I was on the edge of like going back. And it just took one person to tell me, Tracy, don't be dumb, for me. Like, okay, I won't be dumb. I'm going to go take this job. But I thought to myself, if you don't tell anybody, you try to make this decision by yourself, you can build the courage to stick with it. So I rejected the job offer, didn't tell anyone about it. And then at this point, I had savings, but I didn't have nearly as much. Like knowing then what I know now, I mean, I spent recklessly. And I'm not a reckless spender in the sense of buying purses and shoes and clothes. That's not me. I never was that person. So usually people can see it in value, right? That they could see it in their shoes or in their clothes or in their... I just spent like... yeah, okay, whatever, 500 here and 1,000 here. It's okay, I'll just cover this bill. It's okay, I'll do that. And then it just like evaporates into nothingness. I didn't even have it in an investment. So huge mistakes because this was like a huge dread of mine because I realized that I was just living year on year, day to day, knowing that this is the money that I make in finance and not thinking that I would struggle to find a job afterwards. I always ended up finding a job or going into something else. Very late, I think this is not a smart move and not correct for you to learn such values in financial intelligence after the age of 30, but that's where I was. And then all the regrets of like, I had this much money, I made this much money, I had this much in my bonus. How did I not save well enough or a comfortable enough saving for me to at least sustain myself for a few years, invested in a business, invested in real estate or something. So it was very difficult for me. And then I eventually transitioned, learned a lot of lessons the hard way, lost a lot. I lost my apartment. I lost my, I stayed with my sister for a while. I stayed on a friend's couch for a while, and it hurt. I remember feeling like, what have you done? Okay, you're now in a position where you're headed towards doing what you love, but at what cost? Like, you literally lost everything. And people don't see that in social media, right? I mean, I was posting my progress, although I talk about it, I've always been blatant about my transition, and I'm blunt about my transition. But I think when I was in it, I'm not very dramatic or emotional. I almost thought, okay, it's going to be over soon, Tracy. Work towards your goal. This phase will pass. It's fine. No big deal. No big deal. No big deal. But in hindsight, it is a big deal. Like, if I think about it, wow, like, this is a huge lesson. And maybe it didn't come in the form of like anxiety and pain and crying, but it was like, tough enough, Tracy. You got to get through this. You got to get through this. Don't take a step back, because this is a lesson you need to learn. I could go back and take a job in finance, but I wanted to learn the lesson, whether it came in the form of the responsibility of doing the things that you need to do by yourself, financial intelligence, starting up a business. These are huge lessons, and they're going to come at a cost, but it's worth it for me.
This podcast is brought to you by O'Brien Hill. O'Brien Hill is a leading communications agency focusing on public relations, event management, and marketing. It's made up of a fantastic group of creatives in the design and PR fields. The agency first came to life in 2010 as my brainchild. Our creative consulting services were in demand in the UK after our online publication Sketchbook became an overnight success. Much like a proud mama, our agency's namesake is attributed to the place of its inception, Notting Hill. It's now 10 years later, and we're one of the leading communication agencies in town, and we as a team are incredibly proud to be working on this very podcast behind the scenes. Check us out on www.obienhill.com. When did fitness come in? Was it before or after finance?
It's funny, because that really came hand in hand with me leaving finance. I used to be the gym girl who would train 45 minutes to 1 hour on my lunch break. I used to work in the IFC. I'd go downstairs to the gym. I'd do my quick workout with a personal trainer, because I didn't feel like thinking for myself or doing my program. I paid someone to do it for me. And that was it, 3, 4, 5 times a week. Sometimes I'd get lazy. I wouldn't train for 2 months. But I was always athletic or liked training, but never thought that I would ever do, like, I'd ever work in athleticism or athletics. So it's funny, because as soon as I left finance, I remember having followed a couple of people that would do handstand trainings, and I followed this one specific gym here in Dubai who taught inversions and taught calisthenics, and I always followed accounts thinking, whoa, this is cool, I wish I could do this one day. When I left finance, I'm like, you know what, I have time right now. I'm going to go and become a member in this gym, and I'm going to learn it. I was 31. So everything I do, everything you see on Instagram, I only learned at 31. I never used to do it before. What drove me, why I teach it, I think, and why it became, it's the same thing about, it's the same purpose behind that, like it is behind the home workouts I'm doing now. The purpose was pushing yourself to do something you never thought you could do. How proud I was of myself for learning something at such a quote-unquote old age, because a lot of people said, if you don't know how to do this when you're 18 or when you're 15 or when you're 20, you're not going to be able to do it later. Coming stronger and fitter than I ever was at the age of 31. Backflips at the age of 32. These are things that I never imagined my body could do. Even my shift in my career to do what I was doing, again, something I never thought I could do. So why I got into that specific type of training is because I love training skills. Training skills meant being determined to get somewhere, this specific skill, learn it, and I'm going to do all the necessary drills I need to do in order to become good at it. For me, it was a much funner goal to have than, like dumbbells and like, running or whatever. Like, for me, this was what motivated me is learning skills. Then it got me to putting or showing those skills on my Instagram, and then eventually people wanting to learn from me because they thought, how did you just learn it? And something that worked very much to my benefit was I knew what it was like to be a beginner. I was just a beginner 5 months prior, 6 months prior. So it was so easy for me to explain to other people, I know what you're feeling. this and this and this is what you're feeling. These are the fears you have with this. This is what you're feeling in your wrist. This is what you're feeling. So they're like, yes, yes, yes. And this was not answers I got because I was learning from athletes who forgot what it's like. They just tell me, okay, just kick up. I'm like, what the hell does kick up mean? Don't just tell me kick up, right? There's a lot that goes into it. Like you said, coordination, balance, focus. And then it worked. I mean, it just started. This is something that's huge as well in my career, I think, or not my career, in my growth was doing one thing that you like to do. Just do it. Because I wanted to learn this thing. And just because I learned it, it just opened a whole new world for me, right? People think that if I'm not passionate yet, or if I don't know what I love, if I wasn't blessed with a talent, then I'm going to be the person that's stuck in corporate. It's not the case at all. And then I'm the first person to tell you. I used to tell my sister, this was my excuse, when she would tell me, why don't you do something you love? I'm like, Rhea, the difference between, I used to scold her for not working in dance because she was in advertising at the time. I'm like, why aren't you doing dance? You have a passion. I don't. You see? So I'm unlucky. You're lucky because if I had a passion, I would be able to do what I want to do. But the truth is, your passion, you become passionate about something because it has a purpose. It doesn't have to be you like F&B or you like sports. No, there's a purpose behind it. There's a drive, and that makes you a passionate person. It doesn't mean you have to have passion for something specific, You just need to work passionately.
How can you be comfortable with being uncomfortable?
There was a time where I was still in investment banking and I was traveling, I want to say every month, even if it was for 3 or 4 days, to do the craziest adventures. From jumping from a gorge to the hardest and toughest rafting to skydiving to this, to that, to that. And I became like a huge adrenaline junkie and I wanted to just be uncomfortable and put myself in that position. And I think with time, after I left investment bank and then started working on my business, and every day was uncomfortable for me. Every day was a challenge and trying to do something I never thought I could do. I started traveling so much less, desiring that kind of adrenaline adventure less than before. And I think it was just me channeling my frustration in my routine, my day-to-day blah life in investment banking, which I couldn't stand anymore, and saying, you know what, I need to find some sort of hype or like put myself in these crazy, dangerous situations often because it sort of gives me a high. I'm not finding this high in my day-to-day. So I don't think, I don't want there to be a misconception with people thinking like, okay, I need to put myself in an uncomfortable situation, therefore I will go skydiving, or therefore, no, it's not like that. The discomfort or the healthy uncomfortable has to be in the choice of career, skill, or training, or travel, sitting next to a stranger, talking to somebody who's lonely, or sitting by themselves, like uncomfortable things. You're sitting on a dinner table, instead of being the popular person there and then everyone around you, you see 2 people sitting on the side of the table that no one's talking to. Sit with them, talk to them, be uncomfortable. Yeah, okay, it's not fun for you to be giving small talk, but do it because it will make the other person feel good. You will grow from it. You'll have a conversation that you didn't have before. You're very used to the type of conversations with your friends. Have a conversation with this person. They'll teach you something new. So this idea of being uncomfortable, I see huge growth. Even in the travel that I used to do, or I still do, but I don't do it nearly as often as I used to. Now it's for the right reasons. Now it is, okay, now I'm in a good place. I want to explore. Before it was almost for the wrong reasons. I just needed a fix, If you're not going to be uncomfortable with something you're doing, I don't see much growth. If everything is very like routine-ish, I personally don't see growth. It hasn't worked for me at all. The only growth I saw was every time I was uncomfortable. From the smallest little thing to the biggest thing.
How did you deal with being uncomfortable?
That's the tricky thing. The tricky thing is showing up, right? I mean, you're going to be faced with the discomfort of making hard choices and decisions, but most people will just look the other way and not do those things. The difficulty is saying, you know what, let me just go. And I mean, I feel it till this day, even if it's something like a trip I need to do. Oh, the packing, getting there, I don't know who, even like small things like this, but you just do it. Being uncomfortable is never going to be easy. That's the whole meaning behind the word, right? It is uncomfortable. You're not gonna be like, oh wow, I enjoy this discomfort. It's uncomfortable, right? But when you're doing it, that's when you realize how much growth comes with it, or what you're learning while you're in it, you know?
Were you experimenting with what you wanted to do, or did you have an idea, or did it require a lot of trial and error?
I mean, I can't tell you the number of times I had to redirect and change my ideas because it seemed like a great idea at the time, but then it just didn't work, or it did come together nicely. And I'm very much of an advocate of trusting with the process, and I don't dwell over something not working out. I just quickly change directions. Most people that I encounter, I was just having this conversation actually with somebody, they sort of want to stick with it and they think that, yeah, but that's perseverance. But there's a very big difference between perseverance and then you sticking to something because you're being so stubborn that you want this idea to work when it just doesn't work. One idea I had initially was, the first thing I wanted to do was basically do a influencer. I wanted to leverage off of my contacts. I have all of my friends who are influencers. I don't know this world. I don't know social media. I was a private Instagram account. I thought, okay, I put all these influencers together. We do an adventure trip and then I can get it sponsored. And then then I get my dose of doing adventure trips. I have my influencers on board so that brands will be enticed to give us sponsorship. And I was sticking to that. That just didn't work out because to coordinate and the logistics that come with it, and then the each influencer saying, oh wait, hold on, but I want to get paid for this endorsement, or if this product is going to show in the video, then I want to get paid too, and then working with friends and then coordinating all that together, I realized, okay, wait, this is not working, and this is just too much of a mess. It turns out that I'm going to be burnt out. I'm not actually going to make any money if I have to keep paying everybody for their endorsements and for their stuff. So I'm really not going to enjoy this. Redirect. Let's try something else. Maybe I will do my own adventure trip. Maybe I'll do this. And then that didn't work out. COVID hit. I can't do adventure. I worked on a campaign for something. Now I can't even launch it because I have to redirect. So there's a lot of redirection. The things that didn't work were those initial adventure concepts and retreats. I think eventually they could work. Maybe at some point I could do an adventure or a retreat concept, which is actually in the pipeline. But imminently today, the things that work for me are e-commerce, which is something I'm getting into right now. It's going to launch any day, so you're the first knowing about it. Different lines of business inside e-commerce, which is something I've adapted to throughout COVID. The online coaching, the workshops, those are all doing really well. But yeah, the adventure thing, I mean, for a long time I was talking about adventure, but I really did nothing with adventure except my own adventure trips because it just wasn't the time, it just didn't work.
What do you love most about your job?
The physical workshops I enjoy massively, and I work with brands, I work with event companies and with individuals to set up a workshop somewhere, teach 3 hours or 2 hours of like a progression class. I enjoy it so much because that doesn't necessarily make me great money actually. You're just teaching for 2 to 3 hours. It makes money, but not that much money. So it's not a money generating thing, more so than it is pure joy of moving someone from point A to point B. Even if it's a talk, getting invited to talks, I absolutely love it so much. I haven't ever gotten paid. Well, I have, not in a couple of occasions, but generally I don't get paid for talks. I just love it so much. I just go do them. Live with Tracy, yeah, it does pay, but it's not as fun and thrilling as the physical workshop, of course. But there's a lot of joy that comes with having built this kind of community. So I think some things do pay very well. They don't necessarily bring me so much joy, but then like brand collaborations, for instance, it's not necessarily so much joy in brand collaborations, but there are the brands, like especially later on at later stages, I started picking and choosing campaigns that I really love and enjoy. And they have a purpose, a meaning behind it, a narrative that matches mine, and I take it. At the beginning, when I was struggling financially, I was taking almost any brand collaboration because I needed to make some money. Just like a struggling actress would work as a waitress. She has to do it because it's making her some money. I had to do jobs that I don't necessarily care that much about in brand collaborations because they were making me some money. Then you become picky, right? So you just pick and choose what actually works for you and what makes you happy. So that's why I love brand collaborations now more so than before, because the brands I work with, I'm like, yes or no, like this doesn't work. This doesn't work with my brand, or this does work with my brand. Now it's more of a collaboration, really, truly a partnership, a collaboration, trying to bring something to life, a point or a narrative or a cool idea, a funny concept,
What's your relationship like with your sister, Ria?
what you see with Rhea on the page and with me, this is pretty much our personalities. Like Rhea is always the goofy, funny, doesn't give a shit what people think person, and I'm always like, oh my god, help me now. You know what I mean? Kind of like that's our dynamics in general. But behind the scenes, we're very tight, Rhea and I. But when we work on projects together, there's some bickering, or no, I told you this, or no, this won't work. You're not taking my opinion. What do you mean? Like, this will work. I'm telling you, Ray, I think this. No, I don't think this. Like, there's a lot of that, right? So we do that. And then sometimes it's like, why do you get what you want all the time? I'm telling you, this is going to work. You're not listening to me. So we have some of these arguments. More emotional or sensitive when it's a sibling. But if you're working with a colleague, it's like, I know you're just ping-ponging your ideas on each other, right? It's not as sensitive as, yeah, but you don't want to take my opinion, kind of a thing, So yeah, we'll have these kind of debates or arguments when we're working together sometimes. I think we had it, like now that I think of the last few collaborations, it was more funny. It's always funny and hilarious, but prior to the funny and hilarious, when it's negotiating the deal, working with a brand, saying, okay, we'll pitch this. And then when we're filming, because our content is always funny, it's always comedy, we're cracking up the whole time,
Did you inspire Ria to also make a career transition, or was it the other way around? Who went first?
The way it started, it's not a coincidence. I basically left career to transition, and then maybe like 5 months later, Rhea left hers. I think she wanted to test it on me to see, okay, let me see what's going to happen to Tracy. If she drowns, I ain't leaving, but if she's afloat, then I'll do it. And I think I kind of inspired her to do it because she just saw firsthand that Rhea is much better with financial intelligence than I am. She saved money. She was much more structured, much more careful. I wasn't. So she's like, okay, if Tracy managed with her mess, I can manage, right? So that happened. It just so happened that she's the one that started in the fitness and the dance. That's her passion. She's been dancing since the age of 5. I used to dance with Rhea. I stopped dancing when I was 16 because I had different interests when I was a teenager. She's the one that initially had this love and passion. I never did, but I loved adventure. It came hand in hand with the kind of sports I was learning, the skills. It was very adventurous. So that just so happened to almost look like we have aligned goals or aligned career choices.
Is it hard sticking to the same plan, or does your vision keep changing?
There's a lot of change. So my vision, if you asked me a year ago, was this adventure, concept, trip, whatever. I don't have that in my vision anymore. My vision would be, let's say, this large training, wellness / adventure program or franchise that works globally or internationally. I'm not there, but people will buy the franchise of this wellness center, or not so much a wellness center because it's not like retreat, yoga plus whatever. More of like pushing boundaries, being uncomfortable, doing things that you never thought you could do. That kind of retreat, let's say, not boot camp, not training, something like that. But it's almost like a franchise, and big on e-commerce with the 2 things that I'm going to launch. Not right now. Right now I'm launching something else, but eventually in time I have 2 concepts that I want to launch, and I'm hoping that this would do really well. So I would love it to be a large franchise as well. Who knows? Let's see. And another thing I absolutely love is giving talks and learning from other people's talks and doing it myself, and being eligible to, I would say, be in a position to inspire or motivate, and not by where I am today. I think where I am today is just a learning curve, but really making it in this and that industry, let's say, that I'm actually after, e-commerce or adventure or whatever, and then having a voice for the people that don't even know if they can manage or don't know if it's too late, and just learning from what I've been through. The ideal scenario is eventually I could also do that, but long term or maybe a talk show, maybe something like that, But let's see. One thing at a time. I keep telling myself, Trace, one thing at a time. You keep doing 100 things at the same time, so let's see.
Did you ever think about things from a financial aspect? Like, what about monetizing from the very beginning?
It initially started like that, where I was thinking to myself, it's not about how much you're making, Tracy. Just do what you want to do. Be that inspiring person that you found in other people. Do the thing that you love to do. Don't let it be about money, about prestige and whatever. And then I started sort of rolling out my plan, and I think because I had that mindset, my focus wasn't necessarily money. It was doing what I love. Doing what you love eventually makes you more creative, as I was saying earlier. It makes you think of bigger, and I mean, these ideas that I have on talks and e-commerce and whatever, I would have never imagined me speaking about these things or launching these things a year ago. And I'm very happy to say that I'm making more money than I was making back in finance right now because of those steps that I decided to take, of thinking outside the box, trying opportunity after opportunity, rejecting this because I can go after that. And funnily enough, with time, and it's true what people said to me at the time, just start, and then things will unravel, opportunities will open up. And it all came with this whole put yourself in an uncomfortable situation, take opportunities, listen to other people saying, you know what, I think you could do a TV show, which I just did recently. What, really? Okay, fine, I'll just do it. I don't know if I'm good at it. I don't know if this is a very recent thing. I had a TV show opportunity in Arabic, and I'm not comfortable speaking Arabic on TV and without including English words. I'm just so used to speaking English all the time. And I could have easily just said, no, I'm not going to do it. I can't speak Arabic properly. I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to have to put the work. And I took it. I took the job because I knew my Arabic was terrible, and this would push me to, at the very least, practice my Arabic. It's a language I need in this region, and I keep sort of finding the comfortable lingo or comfortable dialect that I'm used to, and speak in English in all my podcasts, on my talks. This is going to push you, Tracy, so do it. And I took the job, and I worked 5 times more than anybody else on set because everybody was Arabic speaking. Their first language was Arabic. They don't need to prepare pre-hand. I mean, I know how it's like. When it's English, I don't have to prepare pre-hand. I'll just do it straight away. I had to prepare the script, work on the grammar, work on 100 things. I remember crying a couple of times because it would be 1 a.m. I had to wake up at 5 to shoot. And eventually the show actually turned out fine. And people that know my Arabic and my difficulty in my Arabic were telling me, like, I mean, this is not you. How the hell? Of course you're reading. I'm like, I'm not reading, guys. I'm actually talking about technical terms, biology terms in Arabic. And I had to learn them all on the spot. That is being uncomfortable, putting yourself in an uncomfortable position. And from that, I have 2 new opportunities that opened up. Both paid well. So these are things that, so what if it's uncomfortable? There's so much opportunity that can come from that discomfort. And most people would reject it and say, look, you know what, I don't want to do it. I'm scared. I'm not good in Arabic. I'm embarrassed. I'm shy, right? That mindset of be uncomfortable, do those things that make you uncomfortable, opened up door after door after door. And like I said, I'm making more money than I was making in finance now. And I couldn't be more thrilled.
How do you deal with overwhelming situations and overwhelming situations generally at work?
I can detach myself emotionally from difficult and confrontational things. So when things get overwhelming at work, when I'm overloaded, when I can't do something, 95% of the time, I could just breathe. Okay, Tracy, how do we find a solution for this? I think that is huge. It helped me so much. I don't allow things to consume me and overwhelm me. As soon as I feel that feeling, I just take a step back, breathe. Okay, let's find a solution to this. If I didn't do that, then I would have went headfirst into a wall 100 times because of how difficult and overwhelming things got. And then it allowed me to maneuver and move quickly, you know?
It was so great having you. Thank you so much. I had a lovely and awesome time.
Thank you. Thanks so much for hosting me and for thinking that I have something to share with your audience. So I really appreciate your time too.
That's it for this week. Thank you for listening to an episode of the Woman Power Podcast. And thank you for downloading and streaming our podcast every week. If you love what you've heard, tag us on Instagram and follow the Woman Power Podcast and Woman Power Summit account for more information on our next episode. Please leave a rating review wherever you get your podcast. It really helps other women discover the show. That's it from me. See you next week.